What is up, all? Death for the whole world to see. And this album came out in 2009 on Drag City Records, and these songs were originally recorded back in 1975. And Death is a three-piece from Detroit, and they play punk rock. And I came home from work one night and I wanted to relax, so I was sifting through Netflix trying to find something that would, help me mellow out. And I came across this documentary called Before There Was Punk Rock, There Was a Band Called Death. And there was these three black dudes on the cover. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. And I started this documentary and was literally one of the best documentaries I've seen in 2013. The director, whose name escapes me right now, definitely put some heart into the way he documented this band's history. And it's a sad story, but it's also very inspiring that these three kids back in the 70s were just jamming together in this room that their parents set up for them to do whatever music thing they wanted to do, and we're just big fans of bands like Alice Cooper and The Who and Black Sabbath, and banged out these tracks, these that are very poetic, that are very complex. The guitar work is very complex, and it almost has a Jimi Hendrix type feel to the guitar due to the complexity. And it's like nothing I've ever heard before. And the most interesting thing about this band, or I wouldn't say the most interesting, but a very interesting thing about this band, that is that they made a bunch of these tracks. They went to a studio and made a bunch of these tracks, and they tried to get a record deal. And people were like, this is very, rabid for the times, and, but we like it and we want to sign you. But the one thing, you have to change your name. No one wants to think about death, and I'm definitely not going to sign a band that's named Death. But the music you're making is amazing, is what a couple of the record companies that they interview in this documentary say. That they were very impressed with the musicianship, but they had to change that name, and they refused to change that name from Death, partly in debt or in memoriam to their father that really shook them all up. And their father is a very sad story as well. He was an electrician of sorts, and he was training a new guy, and they were climbing one of the telephone poles, and the new guy climbed the telephone. The new guy climbed the telephone pole, and he got electrocuted and just ejected from the telephone pole. So their dad, the three guys in this band's dad, decided to take care of him. He put him in the car and was taking him to the hospital, and there was a drunk driver on the road, and just fucking their dad just died internally doing a good deed. And I can only imagine losing my dad as a young adult, and how it would affect me, and how to my guns I would stick about keeping the name of my band Death, and it being in memorandum of my father. But so I was so inspired by this documentary. It literally brings tears to my eyes when I fucking watch this, because I'm looking at my notes. David Hackney, who is the main creative force behind this band. He's the guitarist, he's the lyricist, and he would just put a lot of emotion into his guitar playing, and the lyrics are very, very poetic. And like the thing that immediately comes to mind is I can't. The name of the track escapes me, but he's talking about he's from the moon and he's looking down at Earth and he's asking, why is the sky so green? And it's done in this very like hardcore punk, very catchy, fun type spirit. And it's not that cheesy punk rock spirit. I fucking hate that shit. This shit is I don't know. You could tell all three of these guys loved making this music, and their music, these tracks never went anywhere. And I remember another part of this documentary when David, he was a very heavy smoker, and he knew he was dying, so he came to his brother and he said, take these tapes and save them and take care of them, because the world's gonna come and look for these records someday. And his brother was like, yeah, okay. So he put them up in the attic, and they sat there for years and years and years. And one day, one of the sons of one of the brothers in the band said that he wanted to know if he was ever in a band with his brother back in the 70s. And he was like, yeah. How did you know that? He goes, because everyone's fucking talking about you. Everyone's talking about how much they love your music. And what would happen, there was a blogger, and he had found one of the 7-inches that they pressed back in the day. And they didn't really put out a whole lot of 7-inches back in the day. They never even played a live show. So whoever got their hands on these 7-inches, I have no idea. I have no idea how many they sold or gave away. But there was a blogger who was also a digger who got his hands on these records, and he posted the MP3s on the internet, and it just spread like wildfire. And it predates the Ramones. It predates everything punk rock. I mean, there was the Stooges and the MC5s around that period, but this is more of like hardcore punk mixed with this very rock and roll, almost, and there's like this almost hint of soul running through it. They talk about growing up and their parents always playing soul on the radio and stuff like that. So you could definitely hear that influence. They remind me a lot of like a punk rock, more punk rock Bad Brains. And I'm not saying that because they're both, you know, African American, black, whatever. I'm just saying that because there's that similar characteristic of sound, that similar influence. It may be soul, and then Bad Brains is more of like has a reggae influence, and even do full-on reggae songs and stuff like that. But yeah, there's this album is just fucking amazing. Better than anything the Stooges has done. I'm sorry, Iggy Pop, but these, it's so fucking good. MC5, U2 as well. I mean, these guys just banged out some amazing music as young adults. And songs like Keep On Knockin'. There's a whole story about they wrote this song Keep On Knockin' because they'd be jamming in this room their parents hooked up for them, and the neighbors would come over and were pounding on the door, just like to, like, you know, keep it down, you guys are being too loud. So they just wrote this song Keep On Knockin'. And knowing the story behind that track and then listening to it gives it a whole new life. But it's a fucking great track. And what else? Rock and Roll Victim, just full on dirty, gritty punk rock. And this is before there was even a punk rock. So when people heard this, they're just like, this is just noise. But you couldn't deny the heart coming through it, and the catchy tunes coming through it, and the poetic lyrics and the way they were delivered, you just couldn't deny it. It was just amazing music that these three dudes were banging out. And the track Let the World Turn, which is a huge favorite of mine on this record. There's this minimalist guitar just strumming a couple chords, just basically, and vocals come over and singing in this almost like this snarly, like soulful manner, and it's very slow, and it just out of nowhere, bam, just rabid punk rock, and it's so fucking, there's such a good fucking payoff. I mean, literally, you just feel the blood boiling when it kicks in, because it's not just, we're making a bunch of noise. It's very catchy. It's very, makes you feel good, and it's rabid and it's dirty at the same time, and just a fucking amazing track. I think that's the track I'm thinking of, where he's talking about living on the moon and the sky being green, but I could be wrong. The track Where Do We Go From Here, another just amazing track. The way the vocals are delivered, the way the guitar is played. I'm just impressed by the guitar work in general. It has, like I said, that complexity that Jimi Hendrix would deliver. And they even asked the band if they were huge Jimi Hendrix fans, and they said they were fans, but Jimi Hendrix was not an idol of theirs. And I find it interesting that they phrased it like that. But the track, the closing track on the 7, not the deluxe version, but the original 7-track LP, sorry, I'll look this up real quick. Its name is escaping me. It's like Politicians in My Eyes, which is probably right, but I gotta check it. I hate fucking looking like a dope. Not the Melvins. Get the fuck over here. Yeah, Politicians in My Eyes. Got that shit. Had to double check myself though. Politicians in My Eyes is the song that caught everyone's attention on the internet, and brought these the two remaining brothers back together, and a guitarist from their reggae band took over for David since he's passed, and rest in peace, David. You have made some, or helped to make some amazing, very inspiring, very poetic music that I can truly relate to. And especially because you grew up a Jehovah's Witness, it even adds another layer. And jeez, just like to thank you for handing these to your brother and making them accessible so the world can devour this wonderful music. And but yeah, Politicians in My Eyes, and just the view from 3 young adults on politicians and going to war, and basically asking the question, why are you doing this? Why are you sending us to be slaughtered? Why are it's wrong, it's wrong, yada yada yada. But the way it's delivered, it's so fucking like nothing I've ever heard this way. They have this garage sound because that's probably the production style back in the day and where it was recorded, and this rabid bass and just amazing sounding drums, the way it was produced, and the guitar, is just awe-inspiring. I can't say enough about this record. I'm glad that the two brothers have gotten together and actually started playing shows like they never did back in the day. Actually playing shows together of these songs, and even putting a picture behind the stage of David, their brother who died, who played guitar and helped write lyrics, or may have written all the lyrics. I haven't actually picked up an LP or anything, but definitely peep this out. It's Death for the Whole World to See, which originally never really saw light. A lot of these tracks. Back in 1975, but you can pick up these tracks now on Drag City Records. Just an amazing band, and I look forward to these guys making new music together. I wish I would have saw them in Oakland a couple of weeks back, and hopefully I'll catch them again when they swing through. Definitely peep it out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Check out the description box below for links to tracks from this band, and I'll see you all next time.